On today's video, what we're going to talk about the sum and difference of two cubes. Before we go further and start solving the questions, I want to talk about the SOAP method. So what's the SOAP method and how can we use it? So in the SOAP method, S stands for same, O stands for opposite, then A stands for always, then the last one, P, stands for positive. Accompanying the SOAP method, we need to know other things too. We need to know what the square stands for, the X stands for, and another square stands for. So this one stands for square, but in our case, we mean this square. Then this one stands for multiplication, to multiply, right? And this one stands for square, which is, as I said, stands for this one. So using what I gave you, which is the abbreviation for the SOAP and this, let me use it to find the sum and difference of 2 squared. So for example, let's say they gave you A cubed and they said minus B cubed, right? To use this, to solve this, you need to use the SOAP and this, right? So let's do that. This is going to be equals to the first bracket and another bracket, right? In the first bracket, these ones are going to be represented by red, right? And this one will be represented by blue. So in the first bracket, right, what's going to happen is the red one represents the sign. So this is where your signs are going to go. The first one says S, so it's going to remain the same. Then the other one says opposite, right? The opposite sign. And the last one says always positive. So it's AP, always positive. Representing what? SOAP. Then this one, right, represents what? The blue one is going to represent what? The variables. So the first one needs to be exactly the same. So we're just going to drop. This one stands here. The first one has to be squared and the last one needs to be squared and the middle one needs to be multiplied, right? So the first thing that you need to do is what? Find when you substitute in the cube root, what's going to give you inside, right? The cube root of whatever number they give you. So let's start with the signs first, right? Before we go to the actual variables. So the first one says same. So since your question has a negative, you're going to drop it down and it's going to be negative here, right? And the second one says opposite. The opposite of negative is going to give you positive. So that's what's going to have here, which is going to give you positive, right? And the last one says always positive. So here, regardless of whether it's a negative or positive, this is going to be always positive. So now let's move on to substituting the variable. First, before we substitute the variable, we need to find them without having the cube, meaning we need to get rid of the cube of each term. So let's do that. Let's do it in blue. The cube root of a to the power 3 is going to give you what? It's going to give you a, right? And the cube root of b to the power 3 is going to give you what? B, right? So in the first bracket, this is a case of always. You take the one that you simplified, right? Which is a here. Since this one, when you put in the cube root, you get a, you're going to put a here and b here, right? So you drop this the way it is, but without the cubed, right? So we're done with that. So they tell us the fact that the first one, we need to square what? We need to square it. We need to square this and this. That's what they mean. So the first one, we need to square the first term. So we're going to say a squared. And a squared is going to give us a squared. So here we're going to write a squared. Then the second part says the fact that we need to multiply. What they mean is we need to multiply a and b. The one that we just put the solution of inside the cube root. So it's going to be a multiplied by b, which is going to give you ab. So this one comes here. Then the last one, what you need to do is you need to square the last term, which is b squared. So what's the square root of b squared? The square root of b squared is going to give you b squared. So this one comes here. And this is how the SOAP method operates. So this will be your final answer of factorizing a difference of 2 cubed. Now let's take the same question, but now what we're going to do is we're going to add. So now it's going to be the sum of 2 cubes, right? So as I said, before we do anything, let's put in the signs. So the first one says same, meaning we take the one that we have on top and we just drop it here. So it's going to be positive. And the second sign says the fact that it's opposite of positive, so it's going to be negative. And the last one says it's always positive, so we're going to put a plus. So now we already solved what's the cube root of a cubed and the cube root of b cubed. We know the fact that it's a and b. So we're going to write here in blue, this one's going to be a and this one's going to be b, right? Then we know the fact that the first term we need to square it, so it's going to be a squared. We need to square the first term. And the second one, we need to multiply these two terms. So it's going to be a multiplied by b, which is going to give you ab. And the last one, we need to what? Square the last term, which is b squared. And this will be your final answer on solving the sum of 2 cubed. So now let's look at a question that you might get in your test. So if they give you x cubed minus 8 and they say factorize this, how would you do it? First thing first is you would write your brackets. So you're going to say equals to your brackets, then another big bracket, right? Then what you're going to do is you're going to name everything. So you know the fact that this is S, and this is going to be what? O, and this is going to be A, P. Then here it's going to be the square, the multiplication, and the square, right? Then what do we need to do is we need to fill in the signs first. So let's do that. So we use, when S stands for same, so we need to use the same sign here. So we know the fact that this is negative, so this one's going to be negative. This one is opposite of the sign that you use, which is same. Opposite of S, which is this one, is going to be positive, because opposite of negative is positive. And the last one is AP, which stands for always positive, so it's going to be positive. Then to put in your variables, we need to find the cube root of each term, right? So let's do that. So the cube root of x to the power 3 is going to give us what? X, right? And the last one, the cube root of 8 is the same as equals to 2. So we have x and 2. So here, since x is the first term, you're going to put x here. Then since 8 is the second term, we're going to put 2 here, right? Then now we need to fill here. So the first one says we need to square root the first term, which is the first term. We're not square rooting this one, but the one that we got as an answer, which is x. So the square root of x is going to give me what? X squared. So I'm going to write x squared here. Then the second one says we need to multiply each as the first term and the second term. So we need to say x multiplied by 2, which is the same as 2x. So this one comes here. And the last one, we need to square root what? The last term, which is 2. So we're going to say 2 square root, square, not square root, is going to give us what? 4. So this one is going to be 4. And this will be your final answer for this question. So now let's look at example number 2. If they give you 27 minus x cubed, right? And they say factorize this. We know the fact that we're going to say equals to, open one bracket, then open another big bracket, like that, right? Then you're gonna, in red, you're gonna put the ones with sign, which is going to be S. Then here it's going to be what? O. And the last one is going to be AP, right? Then in blue, it's going to be the variables, which is square, x square, right? So let's start with the signs. We know the fact that our first sign, S stands for same. We need to use the sign in the question. So this one is going to be minus. And here, O represents opposite. So it's opposite of S. So this one is going to be positive. And the last one is going to be what? Always positive. Just like that. Then now we need to find what? The variable. So we need to find the variable that's going to go in each part here. So we need the square root, the cube root of 27, and that's going to give you 3. Then the last one is the cube root of what? Of x cubed, which is going to give you what? It's going to give you x. So the first term, remember, the first term comes here. So in our case, 27. So when we find the cube root is 3, and here it's going to be x. So here we need to square root the first term, which is the first term is 3. So it's going to be 3 squared, which is equals to 9. So 9 comes here. Then the second one is 3 multiplied by x, because we need to multiply. So it's going to be 3 multiplied by x, which is going to give us 3x. So this one's going to come here. In the last one, we need to square the last term, which is x. So it's going to be x squared, which is going to give me x squared. So this one's going to come here. And this will be your final answer for this question. Let's say, for instance, they give you a question like this. 8 multiplied by j cubed, k cubed, l cubed minus p cubed. And they say factorize this, right? So we're going to use the same method. You're just going to say equals to 1 small bracket and 1 big bracket. Just like that, right? Let's put in the signs. So this one is going to be S, and this one's going to be what? O, and this one's going to be A, P, right? And now we put the variables. This one's going to be squared, and this one's going to be multiplication, and this one's going to be squared. So now first we're going to fill in the signs. So we know the fact that the first one is same as the equation, so it's going to be negative. This one is opposite of same, which is going to be positive, and this one is always positive. Now let's fill in the variable. We need to find the cube root of the first term and the second term. So the first term is the cube root of 8 j cubed, k cubed, and the last one is l cubed. This one is going to give you the cube root of 8 is 2. The cube root of jq is going to be just j, and the cube root of k is just going to be k, and the cube root of l to the power 3 is going to be l. So this will be your first term. So let's find the cube root of the second term, which is cube root of b cubed, which is going to be just b. So here we're going to write the first term. Let me extend this because I feel like my space is a little bit small. So the first term is what? Is 2jkl. So it's going to be 2jkl, right? And the second term is b. So it's going to be b here. Then here they say we need to square the first term. So we need to square this. So you're going to say the square root of 2jkl squared. This is going to give you 4j squared, k squared, and l squared. So this what's come here. So it's going to be 4j squared, k squared, and l squared. Then here they say we need to multiply the first term and the second term. So let's do that. Let me erase this. So it's going to be 2jkl multiplied by b, which is the same as 2jklb. So this one is going to be 2jklb. And the last one says square b. So it's going to be square the second term, so which is b. So you're going to say b squared, which is going to give us b squared. And this one is going to be b squared. And this will be your final answer for this question. So now let's look at the last question, which is p cubed minus 1 over 8y cubed. And they say factorize this, right? So if we had to factorize this, you know the fact that you're going to say equal, small bracket, then the last one, it's a big bracket. Let's add where your signs are going to go. This one's going to be S, which stands for same. This one's going to be O, which stands for opposite. And the last one is A, P. Then this one is going to be square for variables, multiplication, and square. So now let's fill in the signs. The first one says same, so the same as the question. So it's going to be negative. Opposite of S, which is going to give me what? A positive, and this one's going to be positive, right? Then now let's put in the variables. So the cubed root of p cubed is going to give me what? It's going to give me p. Then the last one is the cube root of 1 over 8, right? Y cubed is going to give me what? This is going to be equals to 1 over 2 y, right? So this is the first term and this is the second term. So let's substitute that. So here we're going to put the first term, which is p, and here we're going to put the second term, which is 1 over 2 y, which is this one, right? Then the first one says we need to square the first term. So p squared is going to give me what? P squared. So here it's going to be p squared. And the second one says multiply the first term and the second term. So you're going to say what? P multiplied by 1 over 2 y, which is going to be the same as 1 over 2 p y. So here it's going to be 1 over 2 p y. And the last one says square the last term. So it's going to be what? 1 over 2 y all squared, which is going to give me 1 over 4 y squared. So here it's going to be 1 over 4 y squared. And this will be your final answer.